The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their special seats, each designed for their unique bodies. Some breathed different gases, others floated in energy fields, and a few existed as pure thought. They had all come for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Council Prime Zexthara, an ancient reptilian being with scales that shimmered like oil, called for silence. Her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of leadership. "Fellow beings," she began, "we face something new. Something that has never happened in our recorded history." The hall grew quiet. Even the gas beings stopped their constant humming. 3 days ago, we received a message from an unknown species. They call themselves humans. They come from a system we have never seen before. A place called Sol. The message was simple but strange. Zexthara pressed a button, and a clear human voice filled the chamber. "Greetings to the peoples of the galaxy. We are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. We wish to learn from you and share what we know. We hope to meet you soon." General Korth, a massive insect-like being with 4 arms and razor-sharp claws, clicked his mandibles in anger. "This sounds like a trick. No species announces itself this way. They either attack or demand tribute. These humans are planning something." Ambassador Veltar, whose species looked like floating jellyfish made of light, disagreed. "Perhaps they are just primitive. Their technology readings show basic space travel. They might not understand our ways." Scholar Themos, an energy being older than most stars, spoke with a voice like distant thunder. "I have studied every first contact in galactic history. No species has ever approached us with such simplicity. There is always an agenda. Always a demand." Zexthara nodded. "This brings us to our problem. Our long-range sensors show a human fleet approaching our borders. 847 ships, moving in perfect formation. They will reach Council space in 6 hours." The hall erupted in worried sounds. Some species made clicking noises. Others hummed anxiously. And a few simply glowed brighter. 800 ships! General Korth stood up, his claws scraping against his metal chair. "This is clearly an invasion force. We must prepare our defenses." "Wait," said Ambassador Veltar. "If they wanted to attack, why send a warning message? Why tell us they are coming?" Trader Vixen, a small but cunning being whose species was known for making deals, spoke up. "Maybe they want to negotiate from a position of strength. Show their numbers first, then make demands." As they argued, a young technician rushed into the hall. Her species looked like tall, thin trees with silver bark. "Council Prime, the human fleet has stopped at our border. They are not moving forward. They are just waiting." This news made everyone even more confused. Invasion fleets did not wait for permission. They attacked. Trading missions usually sent 1 or 2 ships, not hundreds. "What are they waiting for?" asked Zexthara. "Permission, Council Prime. They are asking for permission to enter our space. They say they do not want to intrude without invitation." The hall fell silent. In all of galactic history, no one had ever asked permission to enter Council space. Species either belonged to the Council or they did not. Outsiders who approached usually came with weapons ready or goods to trade. General Korth could not believe it. "This must be a trap. No one asks permission with 800 warships behind them." Scholar Themos floated closer to the center of the hall. Perhaps they are telling the truth. What if these humans really do come in peace?" "Impossible," scoffed Trader Vixen. "Every species wants something. Resources, technology, territory, or power. These humans are no different. They just hide it better." Ambassador Veltar pulsed with soft blue light, a sign of deep thought in her species. "There is only one way to know for sure. We must meet with them." 7. Absolutely not. General Korth's voice was like grinding metal. It is too dangerous. What if this is all an act? What if they attack during negotiations? Zexthera considered carefully. She had led the council through many crises, but this was unlike anything before. The humans had the numbers to be a serious threat, but their behavior suggested something else entirely. We will compromise, she decided. We will invite one human ship to our station. They may bring a small delegation. Our defenses will be ready, but we will not show aggression unless they do. And if it is a trap, asked General Korth, then we will deal with it. But if it is not, if these humans are truly different, then we may witness something new in our galaxy. The council voted. It was close, but they agreed to meet with the humans. The message was sent to the waiting fleet. The human response came quickly. Thank you for your kindness. Admiral Ji-hoon Park and Ambassador Min-jung Lee will come aboard with a small team. We are honored by this opportunity. Honored, whispered Trader Vixen. Who says they are honored to meet us? Usually, they demand things or threaten us. As the council prepared for the meeting, each species made their own plans. Some prepared weapons, others prepared trade offers, and a few prepared escape routes. None of them could imagine what was actually coming. In the depths of space, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the massive station ahead. His crew was nervous but excited. They had traveled so far from Earth, hoping to find friends among the stars. Admiral, said his communications officer, all ships report ready. The delegation is prepared. Park nodded. He was a quiet man who had spent his life in Earth's military, but he had never imagined something like this. 800 ships from Earth, representing all of humanity, waiting for permission to make friends with aliens. Ambassador Lee, he said to the woman standing beside him, are you ready to make history? Min-jung Lee smiled. She had studied every language and culture on Earth, preparing for this moment. As ready as anyone can be for meeting beings we have never imagined. As their small shuttle approached Nexus Prime, carrying the hopes of humanity, the galaxy prepared to witness something that had never happened before. They expected warriors or traders or conquerors. They had no idea they were about to meet something far more dangerous to their old ways of thinking. They were about to meet humans who genuinely wanted to be friends. The diplomatic reception hall of Nexus Prime had never seen anything like this. The massive room was designed to hold hundreds of different alien species, with special areas for those who breathed different gases, lived in water, or existed as pure energy. Today, it hosted the strangest first contact in galactic history. Admiral Ji-hoon Park walked into the hall, followed by his delegation. The alien representatives watched them carefully, looking for weapons or signs of aggression. Instead, they saw humans carrying boxes and containers that clearly were not weapons. Ambassador Min-jung Lee stepped forward and bowed politely to Council Prime Zexthera. Thank you for welcoming us. We bring greetings from Earth and all of humanity. The formalities began as they always did. Each species had their own customs, and the humans were expected to declare their intentions. Would they demand territory? Seek trade agreements? Make threats? We come with gifts, said Admiral Park simply. This confused everyone. Gifts were usually given after negotiations, not before. They were tools for sealing deals or showing submission. No one gave gifts just to be friendly. Dr. So-young Kim, a human scientist with kind eyes and a warm smile, opened the first container. Inside were books, music recordings, and artworks from Earth. These represent our culture, she explained. We want to share who we are. The aliens examined the items with confusion. The books contained stories and poems. The music was in dozens of human languages. The art showed everything from ancient cave paintings to modern sculptures. Trader Vixen picked up a small carved wooden elephant. It does nothing, said Dr. Kim. It is beautiful. A human artist carved it, just to bring joy to others. This answer made no sense to Trader Vixen. Why create something that had no purpose? Why trade something that had no value? Scholar The Amos examined a book of human poetry. As an energy being, he absorbed information differently than others. These are thoughts and feelings written down. You preserve emotions, like we preserve data. Yes, smiled Ambassador Lee. We think emotions are just as important as facts. General Korth studied a recording of human music. His species communicated through clicking sounds, so music was a foreign concept. This is random noise. What purpose does it serve? Dr. Kim played the recording. It was a gentle piano piece by a human composer named Chopin. It serves no purpose except to make us feel peaceful. When humans are sad or angry, music helps us feel better. You use sound to control emotions? General Korth was interested despite himself. His species struggled with anger management. Not control, explained Dr. Kim. Music helps us understand our feelings. It reminds us that we are not alone in what we feel. As the cultural exchange continued, the aliens grew more puzzled. These humans were not following any known pattern for first contact. They were not making demands or showing off their technology. They were simply sharing who they were. Then Ambassador Lee said something that shocked everyone. We studied your public broadcasts before we arrived. We learned about some of your problems. We would like to help. The hall went completely silent. No species had ever offered to help before making demands of their own. Council Prime Zexthara spoke carefully. Help with what? Dr. Kim opened another container and pulled out detailed medical files. We learned about the crystalline hegemony's plague, the dimming. Our doctors have some ideas that might help. Healer Prime Crystal, a being made of living crystal who had been silent until now, suddenly glowed brighter. You would help us? What do you want in return? Nothing, said Dr. Kim simply. Suffering is suffering. If we can help end it, we should. Trader Vixen could not believe this. Nothing? No trade agreements? No territorial rights? No technology exchange? Admiral Park shook his head. We help because it is right to help. This concept was so alien to the Council that many representatives thought it must be a translation error. No species helped others without expecting something in return. It went against everything they understood about galactic politics. Ambassador Lee continued. We also studied the war between the Void Hunters and the Gas Giant Collective. Both sides have valid concerns. Perhaps we could help them find a solution that works for everyone. 1. War Chief Vortak, representing the Void Hunters, laughed harshly. Outsiders have tried to solve our conflict for centuries. They always favor one side or the other. What makes you different? We have no interests in your war, said Admiral Park. We do not want your territory or your resources. We only want to see the killing stop. Collective Node Prime 7, speaking for the gas giant hive mind, pulsed with skeptical colors. You claim to want nothing. This is impossible. All species want something. Dr. Kim smiled sadly. We want something. Yes. We want to live in a galaxy where beings help each other instead of fighting. We want friendship and peace. But we cannot take these things by force. They must be given freely. Scholar The Mose floated closer to the humans. As the oldest being present, he had seen every type of species emerge in the galaxy. You speak of friendship as if it has value. Most species see friendship as a weakness to be exploited. On Earth, said Ambassador Lee, we learned that friendship is the strongest force in the universe. Friends help each other grow stronger. They share knowledge and resources. They protect each other from danger. Humans became the dominant species on our planet, not because we were the strongest or smartest, but because we learned to work together. General Korth clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Your planet had many species? You fought for dominance? Yes, said Admiral Park. But we learned that cooperation was better than competition. When humans help each other, everyone becomes stronger. As the meeting continued, the alien representatives found themselves in unfamiliar territory. They had prepared for negotiations, threats, or trade discussions. They had not prepared for beings who simply wanted to be helpful. Trader Vixen made one more attempt to understand. If you want nothing from us, why did you come? Why travel so far just to offer help? Dr. Kim looked around the room at all the different species. Some breathed water, others lived in methane clouds, and a few existed as pure thought. Despite their differences, they all looked back at her with the same expression of confusion and curiosity. Because, she said softly, the universe is a big, empty place. It is less frightening when you have friends to share it with. For the first time in galactic history, the council chamber was completely quiet, not from fear or anger, but from wonder. These humans had traveled across space not to conquer or trade, but simply to make friends. As the formal session ended, small groups of aliens began approaching the humans with questions. They wanted to understand this strange new way of thinking. The humans answered every question with patience and kindness, never growing tired of explaining their unusual perspective. Council Prime Zexthara watched from her high seat as the most powerful beings in the galaxy crowded around these newcomers like children eager to learn something new. She had ruled for 10,000 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The humans were about to change everything, and they were doing it with nothing more dangerous than kindness. Captain Dongwu Choi stood on the bridge of the human medical frigate Compassion as it approached Crystal Prime. Around the beautiful Crystal homeworld, dozens of quarantine stations floated like metal islands in space. Each one held crystalline beings suffering from the dimming, the plague that had puzzled the galaxy's greatest minds for decades. Captain, reported his science officer, the crystalline authorities are requesting our medical credentials and treatment protocols. Captain Choi smiled sadly. Tell them we have no special technology. We come with something simpler. Choi. Behind him, Chief Medical Officer Heijin Song finished preparing her team. Dr. Song was not like the alien doctors who had tried to cure the dimming before. She did not carry advanced scanning devices or powerful medicines. Instead, she carried something the galaxy had forgotten existed: genuine care for others. The crystalline beings were beautiful creatures made of living crystal that could change colors with their emotions. When healthy, they glowed with brilliant rainbow patterns. When affected by the dimming, their light slowly faded until they became gray, lifeless shells. Healer Prime Crystal met the human team at the main quarantine station. Her own light was dimmer than it should be, showing early signs of the disease. She said with a voice like wind chimes, I must warn you that many species have tried to help us. All have failed. The dimming cannot be cured with technology. We know, said Dr. Song gently. That is why we are not bringing technology. This confused Crystal. Then what do you bring? Dr. Song's team began unpacking their supplies. Instead of medical equipment, they brought games, books, art supplies, and musical instruments. We bring friendship. 2. The crystalline medical staff was baffled. Dr. Velitan, the chief researcher studying the dimming, flickered with confused orange light. These are not medical tools. How can games cure a plague? Captain Choi sat down with the crystalline doctors to explain. On Earth, we learned that the mind and body are connected. When humans feel sad or lonely for too long, they become physically sick. When they feel loved and connected, they heal faster. The dimming is not sadness, insisted Dr. Velitan. It is a real disease that drains life energy from our crystal matrices. Dr. Song nodded respectfully. We believe you, But we noticed something in your medical reports. The dimming spreads fastest in isolated communities. It affects fewer crystalline beings who live in large families or close groups. Healer Prime Crystal flickered with sudden interest. Yes, this is true. We assumed it was because the disease spreads through contact. What if, suggested Dr. Song carefully, the contact protects instead of harms? The human team was given permission to work with 12 volunteer patients. These crystalline beings were in the middle stages of the dimming. Their colors were fading, and they had trouble moving or thinking clearly. Instead of medical procedures, Dr. Song's team did something unprecedented. They simply spent time with the patients. They played simple games, shared stories, and listened to the crystalline beings talk about their lives. At first, the patients were confused. Dr. Min-sok was a young human nurse who sat with a crystalline patient named Brightness. "Why are you here?" asked Brightness, his light barely visible. "Because you should not be alone," said Dr. Min-sok simply. "Everyone deserves to have someone who cares about them." As days passed, something remarkable began to happen. The human team learned that crystalline society had become very focused on individual achievement. Each being worked alone, lived alone, and rarely spent time with others. They had advanced technology and great knowledge, but they had lost something precious: connection with each other. Dr. Song discovered that the dimming was not really a disease. It was loneliness, made physical. The crystalline beings were literally dying from lack of friendship and love. "Impossible," said Dr. Veliton when Dr. Song shared this theory. "We are an advanced species. We do not need primitive emotions like friendship." "Everyone needs friendship," said Dr. Song gently. "Even humans with all our technology would become sick if we had no one to care about us." To prove her point, Dr. Song organized something that had never happened before on Crystal Prime, a community gathering. She invited healthy crystalline beings to visit the quarantine stations not for medical reasons, but just to spend time together. Many refused, saying it was too dangerous. But some came, curious about these strange humans and their ideas. Crystal was one of the first to visit. She had been watching the human team work and was amazed by what she saw. The 12 volunteer patients were getting brighter. Not much, but enough to notice. "What are you doing to them?" she asked Dr. Song. "Nothing to them," replied Dr. Song. "We are doing something with them. We are being their friends." Crystal watched as Dr. Min-seok played a simple card game with Brightness. The young crystalline being had not smiled in months, but now he was actually laughing. His crystal body flickered with tiny sparks of color. "He is getting better," whispered Crystal in amazement. Dr. Song nodded. "When beings feel cared for, their bodies remember how to be healthy." And, they Fildens noted, "Their Redditins and Amentions fiver, they're not he her presented. They're not he her presented, with Capel fiver." End quote. With Capel fiver presented, with Capel fiver. Slowly, more crystalline beings began to visit the quarantine stations. They brought games, stories, and most importantly, themselves. They sat with the sick, talked with them, and remembered what it felt like to simply enjoy each other's company. The change was dramatic. Within 2 weeks, half of the volunteer patients showed significant improvement. Their colors were returning, and they had more energy. The medical staff could not believe their instruments. Dr. Veliton ran test after test, looking for some hidden human technology that was causing the cure. "There must be something we are missing," he insisted. "Diseases do not cure themselves." Captain Choi invited Dr. Veliton to observe the human team more closely. "Watch what we do," he said. "But more importantly, watch how the patients respond." Dr. Veliton spent a day following Dr. Song as she worked. He saw her sit with patients, listen to their fears, share stories about Earth, and help them play simple games. There was no advanced medicine, no special technology. There was only one: being caring genuinely about others. "This is not scientific," said Dr. Velitan finally. "No," agreed Dr. Song. "It is something more important. It is love." By the end of the month, the quarantine stations had become community centers. Healthy crystalline beings came regularly to visit, not out of duty, but out of joy. They rediscovered the pleasure of spending time together, sharing experiences, and caring for each other. The dimming did not just stop spreading. It began to reverse. Patients who had been gray and lifeless for years started to show flickers of color. Some even recovered completely. Healer Prime Crystal stood with Captain Choi on the observation deck, watching hundreds of crystalline beings socializing in the station's main hall. The room blazed with rainbow light as the beings shared their emotions and experiences. "How did you know?" she asked. "How did you understand what our greatest scientists could not?" Captain Choi smiled as he watched Dr. Song teaching a group of young crystalline beings how to sing human lullabies. "Because humans have faced the same problem. We learned long ago that the worst sickness is not in the body. It is in the heart when it has no one to love." News of the cure spread across the galaxy faster than any disease ever had. The impossible had happened. The humans had solved the greatest medical mystery of the age, not with superior technology, but with something far more powerful: the simple understanding that no being should face life alone. As the human medical fleet prepared to leave Crystal Prime, thousands of crystalline beings gathered to say goodbye. Their combined light was so bright it could be seen from space. They had remembered how to shine together. Healer Prime Crystal gave Dr. Song a crystal sculpture as a farewell gift. "This represents our species' greatest discovery," she said. "Not a scientific breakthrough, but the rediscovery of friendship. Thank you for reminding us that we were never meant to live alone." The galaxy was beginning to understand that the humans had brought something more revolutionary than any weapon or technology. They had brought the radical idea that caring for others was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. Commander Seon-ho Kim watched through the viewport as his peacekeeping ship entered the nebula zone. This region of space had been a battlefield for over 3 centuries. The beautiful purple and gold clouds of gas hid the wreckage of thousands of ships and the graves of millions of beings. "Commander," reported his communications officer, "both fleets are approaching. The Void Hunters from the north, the Gas Giant Collective from the south. They are maintaining weapons lock on each other. Turnges, Recipes." Commander Kim had spent years studying this conflict before volunteering for this mission. The war between the Void Hunters and the Gas Giant Collective seemed impossible to solve. Every attempt at peace had failed. Most species had given up trying. "Open channels to both fleets," ordered Commander Kim. "This is Commander Kim of the human peacekeeping vessel Harmony. I request permission to speak with both War Chief Vortok and Collective Node Prime 7. The responses came immediately, both filled with suspicion. "Human Commander," growled War Chief Vortok, his voice like grinding stone. "This is not your war. Leave now before you become another casualty." Collective Node Prime 7's multiple voices spoke as one. "We concur with the War Chief. This conflict is beyond outside resolution. Your intervention is not required." Commander Kim smiled despite the hostility. It was the first time in centuries that both sides had agreed on anything. "I am not here to intervene in your war," he said calmly. "I am here to invite you both to dinner." The silence that followed was so complete that Kim's crew wondered if their communication system had broken. Finally, War Chief Vortok spoke. "Did you say dinner?" "Yes," replied Commander Kim. "I am sending formal invitations to both leaders. Tomorrow evening, aboard my ship. No weapons, No guards, just conversation and good food. Collective Node Prime 7's response was immediate. This request violates all protocols for hostile engagement. We do not understand its purpose. Commander Kim had expected this reaction. The purpose is to meet as beings, not as enemies. To understand each other as people, not as military targets. Impossible, declared War Chief Vortak. The gas giant parasites are not people. They are a plague that consumes everything in its path. The nomadic destroyers are not people, responded Collective Node Prime 7. They are savages who worship violence and chaos. Commander Kim listened to both responses and nodded thoughtfully. You both sound very sure about each other. Have either of you ever had a conversation with someone from the other side? Another long silence. We communicate through battle, said War Chief Vortak finally. It is the only language they understand. We exchange tactical data during combat, agreed Collective Node Prime 7. Personal interaction is not relevant to military objectives. I see, said Commander Kim. So, you have been fighting for 300 years. But, you have never actually talked to each other. This statement hung in space like an unexploded bomb. Commander Kim pressed gently forward. I have studied your conflict extensively. Both of your peoples are honorable in your own ways. Both have legitimate concerns about the Nebula Zone. Perhaps it is time to discuss those concerns over a meal instead of over weapons. To everyone's amazement, War Chief Vortak actually considered the invitation. The Void Hunters prized courage above all else, and this human was showing remarkable courage by placing himself between two enemy fleets. You would guarantee our safety? Asked War Chief Vortak. You have my word, replied Commander Kim. You will be my guests, not my prisoners. Collective Node Prime 7 took longer to decide. The hive-mind nature of the gas giant collective made quick decisions difficult when the situation was unprecedented. Finally, they responded. We will attend this unusual gathering. However, we do not understand what you hope to accomplish. Neither do I, admitted Commander Kim honestly. But I know that 300 years of war has not solved anything. Perhaps it is time to try something different. Not. The next evening, the impossible happened. War Chief Vortak and Collective Node Prime 7 stood in the same room for the first time in either's memory, without weapons or hostile intent. War Chief Vortak was a massive being, nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 powerful arms and natural armor plating. His species lived on small, fast ships and valued personal honor above everything else. Collective Node Prime 7 appeared as a shifting geometric pattern of light and energy, representing the combined thoughts of thousands of individual gas giant dwellers who had merged their consciousness for survival. Commander Kim had prepared carefully for this dinner. The room was neutral, with no symbols that might offend either species. The food was simple but good, representing the best of human cooking without being exotic enough to cause suspicion. Please, sit, said Commander Kim, gesturing to specially designed chairs that accommodated both species' unique physiologies. Thank you both for coming. War Chief Vortak eyed Collective Node Prime 7 warily. I have never seen one of them up close without trying to kill it. Likewise, pulsed Collective Node Prime 7. The individual combat unit is larger than our tactical assessments indicated. Commander Kim served the meal himself, a gesture that surprised both leaders. In their cultures, leaders did not serve others. Why do you serve us? Asked War Chief Vortak. Because you are my guests, replied Commander Kim. On Earth, we believe that sharing food creates bonds between people. It is harder to hate someone who has broken bread with you. As they ate, Commander Kim did something that no mediator had ever tried before. He asked them to talk about themselves, not their military objectives. War Chief, he said, tell me about your people. What do they value most? War Chief Vortak was suspicious at first. but the human seemed genuinely interested. "We value freedom," he said finally. "Freedom to move, to choose our own path, to live by our own code. The Nebula Zone is sacred to us. Our ancestors first learned to hunt there. It is where young void hunters prove their courage." Commander Kim nodded respectfully. "And, Collective Node Prime 7, what about your people?" The shifting patterns of light pulsed thoughtfully. "We value unity and growth. Our species faced extinction when our homeworlds became uninhabitable. Only by joining together did we survive. The Nebula Zone contains the gases we need to expand our population. Without it, we will slowly die out." Commander Kim set down his eating utensil and looked at both leaders. "So, the Void Hunters need the Nebula Zone to preserve their culture and traditions. The gas giant collective needs it to ensure their species survives." "Yes," said both leaders simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. "You are both fighting to protect something you love?" continued Commander Kim. "The Void Hunters love their freedom and heritage. The gas giant collective loves their unity and future. Neither of you is fighting for conquest or greed. Round?" War Chief Vortok stared at Collective Node Prime 7. "You are dying out? Our population requires specific gas mixtures to reproduce," admitted Collective Node Prime 7. "The Nebula Zone is the only suitable environment within our travel range." "I did not know," said War Chief Vortok slowly. "We thought you wanted to expand for power. We thought you attacked us for sport," replied Collective Node Prime 7. "We did not understand that the region had cultural significance. We thought you attacked us. We thought you attacked us. We thought you attacked us." Commander Kim watched as understanding dawned on both faces. "You have been fighting each other to protect what you love most, but you have never told each other what that was." The conversation continued late into the evening. War Chief Vortok shared stories of young void hunters completing their ritual hunts in the nebula. Collective Node Prime 7 explained the delicate process of creating new life within gas clouds. "There must be a way," said War Chief Vortok suddenly. "A way for both our peoples to use the Nebula Zone. Spatial division has been attempted," said Collective Node Prime 7. "It failed because our needs sometimes overlap." Commander Kim had been waiting for this moment. "What if, instead of dividing the space, you shared the responsibility?" Both leaders looked puzzled. War Chief: "Your people are natural hunters and protectors." Collective Node Prime 7: "Your people understand gas dynamics and environmental balance. What if the Void Hunters became the guardians of the Nebula Zone, protecting it while the gas giant collective manages its resources sustainably?" War Chief Vortok leaned forward. "We would protect their breeding grounds? You would protect the sacred hunting grounds while ensuring they remain healthy for both our peoples," suggested Commander Kim. Collective Node Prime 7 pulsed with new colors. "The Void Hunters would guard the nebula, while we extract only what we need for survival, not expansion. Both of your peoples get what they truly need," said Commander Kim. "The Void Hunters keep their sacred traditions alive, and the gas giant collective ensures their species' survival. Instead of fighting over the nebula, you work together to preserve it." For the first time in 300 years, War Chief Vortok and Collective Node Prime 7 looked at each other not as enemies, but as potential partners. "It could work," admitted War Chief Vortok. "But can we trust each other after so much war?" Collective Node Prime 7 considered this. "Trust must be built through actions, not words." Commander Kim smiled. "Then perhaps it is time to start building." As the evening ended, the two leaders shook hands in the human fashion, a gesture that symbolized the end of the longest war in galactic history. The solution had been there all along, waiting for someone to help them see past their anger to their shared love for their peoples. The galaxy learned that day that the humans possessed a weapon more powerful than any gun: The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so full. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy packed the massive chamber, with more joining by quantum link from distant worlds. Word of the human achievements had spread like wildfire across space, and today, President Un Ji-yoon of Earth would address them all. Council Prime Zex Thera called for order, but the excitement in the hall was impossible to contain. The crystalline beings blazed with rainbow light, their plague cured by simple friendship. Former enemies from the Nebula Zone sat side by side, their ancient war ended by understanding. Dozens of other species spoke in hushed tones about conflicts that were suddenly being resolved through cooperation instead of conquest. Fellow beings, announced Zex Thara, today we witness something unprecedented. Since the formation of the Galactic Council, we have operated under certain assumptions about how species interact. Competition for resources, territorial disputes, and technological superiority have been the norm, but recent events have challenged everything we thought we knew. In the special section reserved for honored guests, ancient beings stirred. The Ancient Ones, the first civilization, had been thought extinct for millions of years. Yet here they were, ethereal figures of pure energy who had watched the galaxy evolve from its earliest days. The eldest of them, known simply as the First, spoke with a voice like distant stars. "We have been waiting," it said, and the entire hall fell silent. Waiting for 10 million years, for a species to prove that intelligence could grow beyond the need for dominance. President Yoon stepped forward to address the assembly. She was a small woman by human standards, wearing simple clothes with no symbols of rank or power. Yet every being in the hall watched her with intense attention. "Friends," she began, and the word itself caused murmurs throughout the hall. No one had ever addressed the Galactic Council as friends before. "We come to you today, not with demands or treaties, but with an invitation." She gestured to the humans scattered throughout her delegation. Admiral Park stood with former enemies who were now planning joint missions. Dr. Song sat with crystalline healers who had learned that medicine was about more than just treating symptoms. Commander Kim shared notes with species that had been at war for centuries. 6 months ago, humanity arrived in your galaxy as strangers, continued President Yoon. Today, we leave as family, but we are not here to say goodbye. We are here to propose something that has never existed before. A true alliance, built not on mutual benefit, but on mutual love. General Korth, whose own species had been transformed by learning human conflict resolution techniques, clicked his mandibles in approval. The humans have shown us that strength comes not from standing alone, but from lifting others up. Trader Vixen, who had initially tried to exploit human generosity, now led a reformed trade council focused on fair exchange rather than profit maximization. They taught us that the best deals are the ones where everyone wins. Scholar Demos floated forward, his ancient wisdom now enhanced by human emotional intelligence. In all my eons of study, I have learned more about civilization in these past months than in the previous millennium. The humans have shown us that knowledge without compassion is merely data. President Yoon continued her address. We propose the formation of a new type of galactic government. Not a council of separate species protecting their own interests, but a family of beings working together for everyone's benefit. The Ancient Ones pulsed with approval. The First spoke again. This is why we have waited. This is why we have watched. We were the first to achieve technological mastery, but we failed to achieve emotional wisdom. We isolated ourselves, believing that advancement meant separation from others. We became extinct, not from war or disaster, but from loneliness. The revelation that the Ancient Ones had destroyed themselves through isolation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The most advanced civilization in galactic history had died from the very problem the humans were solving. The humans, continued the First, have achieved what we could not. They have learned that true evolution is not about becoming stronger than others, but about making others strong. This is the next step in galactic civilization. Ambassador Lee stood up to share the specific proposal. We call it the Galactic Family Initiative. Instead of each species solving their problems alone, we share our knowledge and resources freely. Instead of competing for territory, we explore new worlds together. Instead of building walls between us, we build bridges. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species after species stood to volunteer their participation. The reformed, crystalline hegemony offered their medical knowledge to all. The Void Hunters and Gas Giant Collective pledged to teach other species how to resolve territorial disputes peacefully. Even the mysterious energy dancers, who had never spoken to physical beings before, offered to share their understanding of consciousness and thought. But it was a young being who spoke the words that would echo through history. Brightness, the crystalline patient who had been Dr. Song's first success, approached the speaking platform. His crystal body blazed with healthy light as he addressed the assembly. Before the humans came, he said in his wind chime voice, I was dying alone in a quarantine station. I believed that was how all beings lived. Isolated, competing, protecting ourselves from others. The humans taught me that we were meant to shine together, not apart. He gestured to the assembly, where hundreds of different species sat together in harmony. Look around this hall. See how beautiful we are when we reflect light off each other instead of hiding in separate corners. This is what the humans gave us. Not just a cure for the dimming, but a cure for the loneliness that was killing us all. As the formal session concluded, something remarkable happened. Instead of the usual rushed departures, beings lingered in the hall. Species that had never interacted before began introducing themselves to each other. Trade agreements were replaced with offers of friendship. Military alliances became cultural exchange programs. Admiral Park found himself surrounded by young beings from dozens of species, all eager to learn about human space exploration techniques. But they were not interested in the technology. They wanted to know how humans worked together as crews, how they supported each other during long voyages, and how they maintained hope in the vastness of space. Dr. Song was invited to establish medical colleges on 17 different worlds, not to teach human medicine, but to teach human caring. Her simple techniques for treating patients as whole beings, rather than collections of symptoms, were revolutionary to species that had focused only on technological solutions. Commander Kim received requests to mediate conflicts from across the galaxy. But more importantly, he was asked to teach others how to find common ground between opposing sides. His methods were already spreading as species learned to see their enemies as beings with legitimate concerns instead of obstacles to be eliminated. President Yoon stood with the first, watching as the hall filled with unprecedented cooperation. Did we succeed? She asked the ancient being. You have begun something far greater than success, replied the first. You have planted seeds of a new kind of civilization, one based not on the law of the strongest, but on the law of the kindest. As the human fleet prepared to leave Nexus Prime, they were no longer alone. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species joined them, not as escorts or guards, but as friends embarking on new adventures together. The galaxy had witnessed the unforeseen unfold. A transformation not through conquest or technology, but through the simple human understanding that every being deserved love, respect, and hope. The Ancient Ones, no longer alone, began to emerge from their self-imposed exile. They had learned from the humans that isolation was not evolution, but extinction. The galaxy would never again face its challenges alone. In space stations across the galaxy, former enemies worked side by side on projects that benefited everyone. In medical centers, healing became about treating not just bodies, but hearts. In diplomatic chambers, conflicts were resolved through understanding rather than force. And at the center of it all, the human fleet continued its journey through space, carrying with them the most powerful force in the universe, the unshakable belief that in a galaxy full of wonders, the greatest wonder of all was friendship. The galaxy had indeed witnessed the unforeseen unfold. They had expected warriors, or merchants, or conquerors. Instead, they had discovered something far more dangerous to their old ways and far more precious than any treasure. They had discovered that they were not alone in the universe. They had found each other, and in doing so, they had found themselves. The age of competition was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. And it had started with 800 ships from Earth carrying not weapons of war, but gifts of friendship to anyone brave enough to accept them. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.